Hi, my name is Rai Farrelly, and I am an instructor in the Department of Linguistics. I am the director of the TESOL program. TESOL stands for Teaching English to Speakers of Other Languages. Most of the courses I teach have a focus on pedagogy, instructional design, curriculum design, and finding innovative ways to teach English as an additional language. So I'm often looking for fun tools and different ways to teach in the classroom and remotely. And during the pandemic, I became aware of Padlet. Some of you may be aware of Padlet already. Others of you, that might be a brand new tool. And I'm so excited to introduce it to you because I really love Padlet. I've used it in my CU Boulder TESOL classes. I've used it with language learners. I've used it at conferences, and I've even used it with friends just for personal fun purposes. So I'm going to take us over to the dashboard for Padlet and introduce you to the tool, and then show you Padlets that I've used in different ways, just to give you a bit of an introduction. Okay, so here we have the Padlet dashboard, and you can see that I've got several different Padlets here that I've either created or that I have been invited to by students or others. So Padlet is free, but you can only make, I think, 5 Padlets for free. And after that, you would have to pay for a subscription. I actually have 2 subscriptions. I have one for personal and professional purposes outside of CU Boulder. And then I have one that I use for CU Boulder for my classes. So when you're ready to make a Padlet, you're going to click on this little pink button here, Make a Padlet. And it gives you several different templates. You can do a timeline template. You can use a map feature. The ones that I use most frequently are the wall, the grid, and the shelf. And I have an example of each of those, and I'll show you kind of how I use them and why you might use one over the other. The first one I'm going to show you is a shelf template. So I used this at a conference. I was presenting with a colleague on leveraging learners' experience to develop print literacy. And at the beginning of our presentation, we had a link to the Padlet in the chat, and we also put a QR code on one of the first slides. And throughout our presentation, on every certain slide, we would have a little box with a question inviting people to come to the Padlet and drop in some responses to the questions that we have been asking. What are some deficit-based perspectives you're aware of? What are some specific examples of learner capital that teachers can build on? So we just kind of use this Padlet throughout the conference to invite people in to contribute. We also sort of at the end over here, we had a space for people to ask questions and comments. And in addition, we offered some resources. So in addition to questions we asked, whatever was relevant to that particular question, we would drop in here as a way to provide additional resources. So that is one way that you can use Padlet at a conference, but you could also use this during student presentations in class. So as they're presenting, they could be directing the audience to certain parts of their talk where they could answer questions while they're listening or add comments to what they're learning from their classmates as they give presentations. You can use it as a scheduling feature. So through the TESOL program, my students offer grammar labs to international students studying at the Intensive English Center on the Hill on campus. So here you can see an introduction to the grammar lab, a link to the Zoom where people can join the grammar lab. And then here we've just got the dates and the topics for the different grammar labs. So if you have something throughout your semester that you want to have easily accessible, such as a schedule of who's presenting when during the semester and what their topics are, you can add it here. And yeah, so that's kind of a fun way to use it. This is kind of fun. I did this at the end of the semester this year, where after our practicum course, I had all of our students come in here and just leave a note to a future practicum student. What advice do you have? What recommendations? What did you learn? I'm laughing because I see that someone started this out as yo. So it was just kind of a fun way to wrap up the course and let them sort of share some insights with folks that were to come after them. And you'll notice they're all anonymous. You can choose whether you want your students to create an account and sign in so it's not anonymous, or if you're okay having anonymous comments. In my pedagogical grammar class, we're always exploring different aspects of English grammar and then connecting that to practice and thinking of ways that we can teach grammar. So after a unit on what are modals and how to teach modals, a couple of our students who were presenting on that particular topic created this Padlet so that my students could simulate the experience of English language learners coming in and practicing with modals. So basically what the creator, Debbie, has done here is that she's color coded them based on sort of different tasks or approaches to using modals that they would carry. So the green is basically giving them different prompts to have them use the modals. So make a formal or polite request, give advice, or make a suggestion. And then the yellow ones look at more of the form of modals. So not actual examples, but explaining. Name one difference between a modal verb and a phrasal modal verb. Rank the single word modals of permission from least formal polite to most formal or polite. So this was a fun activity. And then the purple ones were a little bit more challenging, where they then had to take the form and the function and sort of put it into some sort of a task or an activity. So you can see how they just all were putting in their answers. And this was, again, to model for my TESOL students what they could do with English language learners in the classroom. So this one is more of a wall format, so that the pieces move around as they get added to, basically. But all the students coming in just click on the add a comment area and they can type in their answers. Okay, so then another one I did, which was again kind of a way to wrap up the semester, was deep breaths, music, art, nature, light. Basically, at the end of the semester, I invited all the students to give each other a wish or a gift. So they could share a recipe or a YouTube video, something they suggest their peers learn, poetry, Instagram accounts. So there was a lot of fun stuff here that got shared. And then you can take this and you can actually turn it into a PDF and you can share it with your students so they have sort of permanent access to this Padlet and to all the great content that their peers have created. Okay, so let me go back to make a Padlet. When you want to make your Padlet, as I mentioned, there are these three different kinds. The grid one is the gaming with grammar. That allows you to sort of manually move things around. You'll see up here that it says Rai Farrelly in the name. This one is associated with my personal account. Right now I'm logged in as Rai from CU Boulder. So if we look over here, you'll see that the name is Boulder TESOL. And so I can manipulate this one because this is the account I'm signed into. So when you're allowed to access, you have lots of different options for what you can do. You can change the color of a post. You can add to the post. You can delete the post, etc. I'll show you now what it looks like to add a post. When you click on the button in the lower right-hand corner, you have this new space where you can add a post. So you're gonna come up with your title. Here's a cool picture. And then they have so many options for how they can add to this. They can upload from their computer. They can drop in a link. They can Google something, and they can take a picture right off their computer. When you click on the More button, these options here, you get tons of different ways that you can add to it. So you can go directly to YouTube. You can do an image search. So you can look in a ton of different places. So let's see, share something cool. I don't know, I love dogs. So we'll see what that brings us. So here you have tons of pictures of dogs. You can just click on the one you want and it shows up in here. So let's say we want to do something different. You can even do a video recording. You can do a screen capture. You can add a drawing. There's just so much you can do. And you can even leave a voice memo. So students can choose to sort of leave a little note to their classmates by recording and activating their microphone. So many options with Padlet. And so when you choose your Padlet, I'll walk you through how to kind of create one. So you give it a title. So it automatically has a title set for it, but you can create your own title. So we're just going to leave My Glorious Padlet because I kind of like that. made with a bold sensibility. So you can change your subtitle. And so that's where these show up. My Glorious Padlet, made with a bold sensibility. So under the settings, you can choose an icon if you want. If you're going to make a lot of Padlets, I recommend using icons because they show up here on your tabs. So you can see there's a school, there's a juggler, there's an owl. So I can kind of look quickly and try to remember, you know, what was it based on the icon. I'm going to go ahead and pick a bow and arrow for no reason. And here is where you want to sort of personalize it. So it's not this big messy bunch of numbers. So let's say targets is the name of this Padlet. Then you can go to your wallpaper. You can do solid colors or gradients, textures and patterns, and you can do pictures. And Padlet already offers a lot of kind of pretty pictures, pretty options. So whatever you want the backdrop to look like. And you can also add your own picture as well. So if you'd like to add your own wallpaper, you just go and either search images. So targets, maybe let's see what comes up there. Okay, so we could use this one here from a dartboard, and that could be your backdrop. And then what you want to do is sort of set a few of these other things. So for example, color scheme and font, if you want to play with that. Attribution would be to show the name of each poster. If everyone's anonymous, that doesn't matter. Deciding where the posts show up. And then it's important to allow comments if you want people to comment. So for example, on this memories activity, nobody would be able to write answers to these questions if the comments were not enabled. So you just want to make sure you enable your comments if that's important. If you're creating a board that you want people to access during a presentation so they can see your resources, your data, your questions, but you don't want them to write on your board, then you would disable the comments. I often allow people to like in some way or another, but you can do upvoting, you can do rankings, you can give grades even. So that's kind of nice if you're doing peer reviews or for other purposes. And then you can require approval. So if you're worried about things, inappropriate things being posted, you could do that, and you can filter profanity. And then, whoops, sorry, I'm going to go ahead and save that. And then one more thing that you want to be aware of is, let's see if I can figure out where it is, under the sharing feature. So you can share, like I said, with a QR code or just a simple link, but you want to make sure your privacy is what you want it to be. So under share, if you click on privacy, it can be totally private, password protected. Secret means anyone with the link can get to it. So if you want to share it, you share it. Public means anyone in the whole world can find it if they Google the right words. And then you have these choices. So do you want people to only be able to read your Padlet? Do you want them to be able to write if you've given them access to the comments and the little plus button down below? And then do you want them to edit, which means they can change your questions, your formatting, your picture, everything. So you have those choices too to determine the level of collaboration that you would like to do. So you've got the pink plus sign down in the bottom. You can just simply click and go for it and have fun with your Padlet. I hope this was useful. I know it was quick, but I think when you get in there and you see all the things it has to offer, you'll find some useful ways to use it in your professional and educational endeavors. Okay, thanks.